Welcome to Student-Led Conversations, where students pick up the mic to explore the ideas shaping their future. In today's episode, our student host sits down with two educators to discuss a topic transforming both classrooms and careers: artificial intelligence and the future of learning. From homework and research to creativity, ethics, and critical thinking, AI is changing how students learn in real time. And across industries, including the accounting profession, it's reshaping how work gets done and what skills matter most. Because artificial intelligence isn't something coming someday, it's already here. And the students learning to use it today may be the ones defining what the future of work looks like.
Welcome to Student-Led Conversations. I'm your host, Harshita Multani, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking about AI in everyday learning and how it's changing what it means to be a student moving from high school into college. From homework help and studying to research and writing, AI isn't something that's coming someday. It's already here, and students are figuring it out in real time. Educators are too. And to help with today's conversation, I'm excited to be able to welcome two incredible educators as my guests, Marcus Arns with the American Accounting Association and David Wood with Brigham Young University. Thank you both for joining us today. And before we get started, Marcus and David, would you like to introduce yourselves to our listeners?
Sure. I'm Marcus Ahrens. I am a senior director at the American Accounting Association. I had spent 24 years in the classroom and moved over to the American Accounting Association in July to run their global education center.
My name is David Wood. I've been at Brigham Young University for 18 years. I love being in the classroom and I love new technology. So it gets me excited to see what can we do with technology that we couldn't do in the past. And I'm having a field day with AI right now.
Well, thank you so much for both introducing yourselves. And I want to start this conversation off by going with the surface level things. Where do you guys see AI being most impactful in education today?
But that's a tough one. Where is it not impactful would be easier to answer because I see it everything from, you think of a faculty side, preparing curriculum, delivering curriculum, evaluating, all of those are being impacted by AI. From the student side, same thing. Preparing for class, in class, out of class, it should be embedded into every aspect of everything we're doing as educators and students.
Yeah, and I agree with David. Several years ago when AI was first coming out, there was a lot of resistance from faculty to allow it in the classroom. Most faculty, including myself, didn't know how to utilize it and put some efficiencies in what we were doing. But what we really saw happen is that the students really adopted it early. And then we as faculty actually had to learn how to utilize it as well. And like David said, it has got to be embedded in everything that's done in those accounting classrooms, because students, when they graduate, are going to have an expectation from their employers to utilize it every day. And so our job, I feel, is to teach them how to use that technology effectively and ethically so that they know what they can and should or should not be doing with it.
Well, I want to build off on both of your guys' points. I think how David was saying that it is in every aspect of education today. I really, from my experience from the student side, I remember seeing it be such a new concept. Even when I was in middle school, I don't remember hearing about it as much. But by high school, it was everything that people were talking about. ChatGPT, Copilot, all of these different platforms that are rapidly, becoming the new tools for education. So it is interesting to see how things have been playing out. And in fact, even ethicality has been a big question now about how ethical is it to use AI. Do you guys have any opinions of that?
Yeah, so I think the easy, quick answer is if your instructor says don't use it and you use it, that's not ethical. So set
Mm-hmm.
that aside. Um, but once there is the choice to use it, I think the bigger ethical question is how do you use it well? And you can use AI to become something more, or you can use it to kind of shirk and become something less. And I think that's the key point that's often hard for students to realize is what am I doing right now that's enabling me to have a better future? And I'll just give you a quick example. Everybody's written an essay. They know what that's like. If you just drop the essay into the chat or to Gemini and just copy and paste the answer out, you didn't learn anything. You didn't become anything. An employer is not going to
Mm-hmm.
want to hire you because you can do that because they can do that themselves. Contrast that with a student who says, okay, I have to write this essay. I'm going to use AI to do background research, to explore, or I'm going to draft my essay and I'm going to put it in and say, push on me, argue the opposite side, give me other things to think about, brainstorm with me. Suddenly, from that, not only is my essay better, but more importantly, I as a learner am better. So I think that's the key we have to get across. That key message is, are you using AI to become more, or are you using it simply to get out of work and to shirk and become less?
And David's
Mm-hmm.
correct. It is a way to get efficiency in what you do, not to replace what you should be doing. And David brought up a good point. Students need to make sure they understand what the guidelines are around AI in every class they are enrolled in, because every class could have different rules. And just because my class allows it, maybe somebody else's doesn't. You can't have that blanket uh, assumption that you're allowed to use it. So that's where the ethics comes in. And faculty need to make sure that they're specific in their syllabus, what they'll allow, or maybe it's even assignments, because you could have certain assignments that it can be allowed and others it's not. I think one of the goals of students when they are in school is that they should try to make sure that when they finish school, that they can really use AI to the best of its potential to help them. So some of the things that I used to do in the classroom is they students were always required to turn in all the prompts that they used in that assignment. And I would typically even have them meet in groups for a few minutes and talk about what they did, the answer they got, the prompting they had. And then when I took in the assignments, I would actually find a couple of the best prompting series that happened, and I'd post them up in Canvas and show students this. Now, these are really good ones. They didn't know whose they were, but they could see then and compare on their own. And it wasn't me grading all of the prompts that needed help, but just getting them accustomed to making that transition into the better prompting and not using AI just as a search engine. That's the thing they start with. And then you've got to teach them how prompting can really put the efficiency in there.
Mm-hmm.
Harshita, can I ask you a
I
question on that?
Yes, of course.
So we both took the position of what should the student do, but you're a student. What do you want to see from the faculty from an ethical perspective? What do you push it back on us of what you think from your perspective of what you're seeing us do?
Well, as of now, I've noticed that faculty and teachers have generally been using AI just to make assignments that are helping us students understand more difficult topics out there. Like for example, I'm studying AP Environmental Science right now, and my teacher, he oftentimes he does use like AI to help him create some questions, some AP style questions that'll really help us out during the exam. So that could be one general way that I've seen teachers use AI. But I've done a bit of research and I've also found that universities, in fact, instead of students focusing on AI, I've noticed that universities like the faculties themselves, are using AI to streamline the admissions process and focus on instead of the actual learning and the teaching, but they're actually focusing on admissions and helping more international students have access to admissions and collecting data with the use of AI. Like you two both said, using prompts to find research and all of those things. I've noticed that universities have been using those things for gaining some data.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. Now, Marcus, you did mention something about guidelines. My question is, how similar do you notice these guidelines are, how these guidelines are across platforms and even schools?
Well, most of the schools that I've seen have gone to developing some standard policies that you can fully use it, or you can use it in a limited basis, or you can't use it at all. And they've got these guidelines written, and typically you as a faculty choose which one you want, so that it's at least somewhat consistent. You're going to have one of the three or four options that they have in every one of your classes as a student. So it makes it a little easier for you as a student to navigate and know what you can and cannot do. Most universities now have some type of policy, large policy
Hmm.
around this, and they're wanting students to make sure that they are familiar with it. And most of them are actually directing them back to that faculty member and making sure that you follow whatever's in their syllabus.
Thank you so much. David, you did mention that you are working at a university right now. Like Marcus was saying that he's noticed these changes in universities, these policies. Is there any specific policies that you've noticed at Brigham Young University?
No, Marcus is exactly right. You can't have a policy for AI for an entire university because there are
Mm-hmm.
classes that need to teach people how to use technology. There's other classes that need to use it in this way. So it almost always goes down to the individual faculty member, other than, don't violate certain honesty requirements that are set across the
Yes.
board. Don't misrepresent your work. I think the bigger challenge than setting that, university policy is how differential the adoption is across classes and teachers. So there are some that are super excited about it, and there are others who think it's the worst thing in the world. And that can cause some real whiplash for students when they go into one class. It's like, here, let's go look at all
Mm-hmm.
the amazing things we can do. And then you go to the other class and it's like, no, this is terrible, evil, it's going to destroy everything about it. And so therein, I think, is the real challenge, is helping students see the positives and negatives, but coming to a consensus of which direction we're going. We're early, just like the first few years of the computer were very different, but it is moving faster than I think most faculty are prepared and ready to adjust to.
Mm-hmm. And I do believe a part of that struggle that some faculty members do have is how fast everything is going. How all of these people, all of these professors who've been doing their teaching in a certain method for so many years, now having to adjust to a whole new way of learning, in fact, with the use of AI. How students now who are enrolling into college, they are familiar with the platform of AI usage. They're so familiar with that thing that it's almost difficult for both parties to even navigate where that middle ground will be.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. The AI space moves. Well, I'll say it this way. We used to joke that tax teachers had it so hard because tax was updated every year. And now I just laugh because I'm going into the class next Tuesday, and who knows what's going to drop over the weekend, and what I need to be able to answer questions for the inquisitive students and prepare that. You can't put AI stuff in textbooks very well because it takes a year or two to produce them. And this is changing incredibly rapidly. But to me, that's the exciting part of it. That's the part I love of education, is saying, hey, students, you and I are on this journey together. And rather than me be the sage on the stage, the one who knows all the answers, is here, let me help you explore and ask the questions and start working together. And I think that's the future of work. Is it's going to be much less hierarchical, that this person knows everything and you come in and don't know anything and try to get to their level. Much more, we're going to come in on level playing grounds and say, they have these experiences, you have these experiences. How do we combine them to make something better from both sets of experiences and
Mhm.
abilities?
And I had to learn from students as well when this was first coming out, seeing how they used it. When I had students actually give me their prompts when they submitted their assignments, I learned from that process too. I became better at prompting myself.
Mhm.
And then I just started embedding it into my daily routines of so many tasks that I was doing, because I was also a department chair. So I had other
Mhm.
tasks outside of the classroom. And that help. But I learned from the students, and it is a journey that you have to do together. And if you go with that attitude and have the feeling that you don't always have to be the expert in some of these things, that maybe there's a student in there that's had a little more exposure to utilizing that technology in a certain way or AI in a certain way. And it's a learning process for all of us because we are lifelong learners with this type of technology.
Hmm. I 100% agree. I do think that this is like a process that all of us are going through together. All of us are living through this era of artificial intelligence. And on that note of how both of you were saying that this is something we're exploring, something that's rapidly developing, do you two have any predictions for what may be used with AI in schools or anything that you hope to see be used?
Go ahead, Marcus. Give us your best prediction.
Yeah. Uh, I will. The prediction that I have is I think that we're going to get to a point where you're not going to have the option of being able to utilize AI in your accounting and business courses. You are going to have it fully embedded because that's truly going to be the expectation from employers. Now they're going through it as well. The employers are. So there is that adjustment period. But what I'm hearing and seeing with more of this,
Hmm.
these students are doing tasks that many times they wouldn't have normally been doing for 2 or 3 years, 10 years
Yeah.
ago. So they're immediately being put into tasks that are requiring the AI integration.
Hmm.
They're saying that AI is not replacing the accountant. It's basically going to replace the accountant who doesn't know how to use AI because the accountant of the future that can utilize AI can do so much more work than an accountant that cannot. So that's what the employers are going to be really looking for.
So I agree with that kind of in the short term. If you look longer term, and I don't know what long term is, if that's 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, you're going to see as massive a disruption in work as I think the past 100 years combined. Tasks that used to have humans do will no longer have humans do them. New tasks will originate that no one even thought of. So it's really hard to make predictions on a technology at this early of stage, but I predict
Hmm.
every single profession will be disrupted and it's all happening at the exact same time. That is extremely exciting and terrifying. As a
Yeah.
student, if I were coming into that space, I would hopefully have the optimism to say, hey, wait, this is such a cool space because I get to invent what that future looks like. What happens when we no longer need textbooks? When the whole point of a professor isn't to know more than you, but changes. And I'll give you just one example. There's a school down in Texas that has
Hmm.
K through 12 that is testing a whole new model of education where the students come in and work with an AI for 2 hours in the morning. And then the rest of the day is full of different types of activities, not traditional learning or that. Those students in the last 6 months, their scores came out. They're in the top 1% or top 0.01% of all learners across the country. And so we have to completely rethink what does education look like when I have this incredibly powerful tool and how am I going to harness it? So we're not ready for it as educators, as society, as professionals. We are all grappling with these issues together and trying to figure out what will that future look like, but it will not look like what it is today or what it's looked like for the last 10 years.
And to
Hmm.
follow up on that, David brought up a good point about the disruption that we're going to see. I just saw a report from the World Economic Forum, though, that showed like all the jobs are going to be affected by this. And there's going to be a serious amount of jobs eliminated that we currently have. But they also predict there's going to be more jobs created
Yes.
than eliminated, even. So it is disruption, but you shouldn't be scared of it. You should
Hmm.
embrace it and just realize you're going to have to be able to adapt to whatever the needs are of our economies.
Hmm. And this kind of disruption, I do think is something that it's not something that we haven't seen before. I think in my head, I think of AI being introduced as I think back to like how maybe the internet when it was first introduced. It was something entirely new. Nobody ever knew what it was. Nobody expected it to come, but it was entirely very disruptive. But it also introduced so much to the work field and so much to so many different careers. And speaking of AI and accountants, I recently heard that the KPMG is using cash prize incentives to encourage consulting employees to experiment with AI. I think I think it was an article that was published on Business Insider. I was wondering if you two have any opinions about this.
Yeah, I
Well,
think, go
go
ahead,
ahead, David.
Marcus. Okay.
I was going to say, I know many employers, including the accounting firms, are monitoring how much employees are using AI because they want them using AI. So it's
Yes.
becoming part of their performance review as well. And so they're looking at the amount they're using it now, but it's going to move to how efficiently are you using it as well. So we do see that swing.
And I think what's exciting about the KPMG idea, and there's several other firms doing the same thing, is where does innovation, creativity, and excitement come from? It's not
Mm-hmm.
just because I grant you, Harshita, that you're the CEO, that now suddenly you have all the great ideas. It's those ideas can happen spontaneously across an organization. And what AI does is it now gives people abilities to take those ideas and turn them into real things. And so by incentivizing your employees to all be thinking of that, how can I disrupt, change, improve, invent, create? Suddenly you're unlocking an organization that traditionally was probably more hierarchical and didn't allow
Mm-hmm.
those ideas ever to see the time of day. So that gets me incredibly excited to see what could happen. Imagine, I don't know if we can do cash incentives, but imagine if I went to my students, and I've tried this to say, how would you reinvent education and think of it differently? And let them come up with all the ideas. It doesn't just have to be the professors. It can be anyone in an organization can rethink how it's done and produce a prototype to
Mm-hmm.
show here's what works and doesn't.
And I have to say, as a student, I wouldn't mind a cash incentive. But but speaking on both of your guys' notes, even I think all of this information is so helpful to students who are both in colleges and in high school as well. Like I myself, as a high school senior who has done a few internships and a few other things, I've noticed how workplaces have changed. So all of this information, I really do think will play such a huge role in college students, especially who are searching for internships as we speak. All of these things, AI will be rapidly changing everything as we speak.
Yeah, I think education, one thing you're going to see a big difference is the students that are the best students aren't even going to be not going to be longer the ones who can memorize a lot and who can really perform at an exam. It's going to be the ones who come in with a creative idea, have the tenacity and the perseverance to work at it, overcome the obstacles, and learn and teach themselves to get somewhere. I tell my students, if I can tell you to do it, then I'm going to have an AI do it. So you need to be able
Hmm.
to do what I don't tell you to do and think outside the box and come up with another way and another
Yes.
idea of getting there. That's exciting if you're one of those students who's kind of felt constrained by memorization, and now you have the ability to use all these other skill sets that maybe weren't rewarded as much in higher ed or in K through 12.
Yeah, we're going to have that base knowledge that we're still going to need, but we're going to need to be able to look at whatever output has come with AI, and we're going to need to be able to critically think, is this what I wanted? Is this really were the prompts correct to get me this? Is this the correct information? Or is there anything that is false in the output? And that becomes the harder part, I think, of utilizing AI when you don't have a lot of experience and knowledge base to start with. So, what I'm also hearing from the employers is that if
Hmm.
the students are going to be doing um, things that typically weren't done for maybe 3 years or so in the past, the other big piece is students are really going to need to make sure they've got good communication skills because now they're going to be meeting with management of other companies at an
Hmm.
earlier stage in their career, and they're going to need to be able to
Yes.
communicate via email and in person as well. So the communication skills and the critical thinking are, I think, going to become even more important in this age of AI.
Hmm. And going off of how you guys are saying all of these skills that we've been learning, I actually have a personal experience from this. So I am a part of BPA, which is Business Professionals of America. It's a CTSO. And recently I had to do a competition where I had to create a presentation. And the topic that all of us students were assigned was that we had to create a presentation based off of AI in education, which was actually how this idea came for this podcast, because I was so fascinated with everything that AI was doing in education today. But back on track, I was saying that the presentation event, I've noticed how much education is truly being impacted by AI. And all of these things that I've done with my research, for my presentation specifically, I had to do a, I ended up doing a survey in my school to see how many people truly did support AI usage in classroom. And I have a pretty big school, so I was fortunate enough to have, I believe, around 400 people who responded. And interestingly enough, a lot more people than I had expected were on the side of disagreement with AI usage. And after asking some of them, many of them said that it was because they were afraid that AI would impact creativity and all of these things. And to my answer for that is that I really do think AI, in some ways, AI could impact creativity and all of these things. But AI, if it's used correctly, it could be used for increasing creativity. And if it's used for things like how you guys have mentioned for research instead of a reliance, it can be something that's really great.
I like to say AI is a great amplifier. If you
Mm-hmm.
are lazy, it's going to amplify laziness. If you are creative, it will amplify creativeness. If you're a go-getter, it will amplify that. So what it does is it turns a great big shining light on yourself to see both your strengths and your weaknesses as a human being. And we're playing out this grand experiment in society, and we're going to see, are most people those who are going to use it to uplift, build, and help others, or is it going to turn
Mm-hmm.
into something that's dark and negative? And we see both strands. Hopefully, I'm optimistic that as a human race, we're going to be that positive force and make things better. But you are going to see both sides. It amplifies the directions of strengths and weaknesses that people have.
That's a great way to put it, David. I really totally agree with that. And the the students and the people who can be creative in utilizing AI, like you mentioned, those are going to be the ones that are going to be amplified very positively. And we all know that you've got individuals who are always going to try to do the minimal amount. You
Mm-hmm.
have it now, and you're going to have it in the future. So, but the people that are going to be rewarded are those ones that can be creative and really use AI to be more efficient and amplify, like David said.
Mm-hmm. And I really love that amplify term. I think it it really does make sense about how, the people who will work hard, they will see the benefits come with AI usage, and the people who won't, they'll see how they'll be relying on AI in certain different ways. And I do believe that skills like speaking and presentation and other soft skills, they'll become more important with as AI is being used more, especially since research and all of these things will be easier to do with AI. Soft skills that educators like you, Marcus, and David will be teaching us will be so much more important in the future.
I think you said it exactly right. What AI does is it takes out the robotic stuff that humans probably shouldn't have done, and that
Mm-hmm.
leaves us with what truly is human. And there's a great
Yes.
conversation of what makes me unique, individual, and a difference in the world. That's where the value is. And that's where we need to focus our education on amplifying that. And then let AI take care of bank reconciliations and filing taxes and whatever else the case may be, so that we can get more human and be our true authentic selves.
And that's a good point. AI is eliminating the stuff we didn't like to do anyway in this profession. So
Hmm.
what people thought was boring about the accounting profession, that's the stuff now AI can do. So we've
Yes.
really springboarded the accounting profession forward into a very technology-based profession where you're utilizing all these tools.
Hmm. More than anything, I think now AI will be something that's going to show how much we can humanize the things that we do, with AI being something that's going to be, covering all of the repetitive tasks. We'll be able to focus on bringing us together as people. And going back to my point on creativity, exactly how we were saying that it'll take away the repetitive stuff, this will allow more time for people who are more creative to express themselves, because this will let them really show their skills on those things, the things that AI can't replace. Like, for example, I was mentioning how colleges want to really globalize their admissions process. This just shows how much they want to use AI to bring people together, use translation tools, and all of these other things to, bring more people into the exposure of technology and more things that will help our future.
Okay.
When does AI help us learn? When does AI help us learn versus replace thinking?
What do you think, Marcus? I have to put it in ChatGPT for it to give me the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. um, I think my take on this would be if you use AI only as a search engine,
Hmm.
it's not helping the learning process. But if you actually utilize it to put efficiencies and take a base of your knowledge and put it in a more organized fashion, to be able to, um, take out a manual task and make that technology based now and AI completing it. I think that is the education piece. But if you're just using it to search and have it do all the work for you, and you're going to take the result as all truth, and not really think about what the answer is and try to critically think, is this even correct in what it's given me? Because I can tell you, anytime I use AI and I've got prompting and I'm doing things, I'm going
Hmm.
through several iterations before I get to a final product. I'm using it just to make what I've already done better and clearer to another user of whatever I'm providing. So that would be my take on it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to just go back to something I said at the beginning, which is what are you becoming? So for me, I can't think of my thinking separate from AI. It's they're infused together, and what am I doing with that to either make somebody better, to help, to sell a new product, to do something, and that's not just okay. I can click, get it done, and now I can go off and do something fun. It is a journey together to get to a result that's how do I make the world a better place? Whether as an accountant, whether as a father, whatever the aspect that I'm in, how do I use this to get to a better place? If you're asking that question, then you're going to be using it to learn and become more.
Hmm. I love how both of you guys mentioned those things. And with all of the constant growth and advancement as a result of AI, and I know you said, David, that the AI would be changing so much that we wouldn't know what to expect by tomorrow. But is there anything that you two think education or even the accounting profession, what do you think it would look like in the next year or two? And how do you think we should prepare as students and as educators for these changes?
Well, my take on this would be that, with the use of AI, it's not going to have us do less work in the future. We
Hmm.
are, what should happen out of this is, as we mentioned, some of those repetitive tasks are gone, but now we've got efficiencies in so that we can do other things. So we're not going to be in a profession where you're doing less work. You're just going to be in a profession where you're doing different work.
Different work.
But you're still going to be working, and there's still going to be opportunities for you to work alongside of AI, and you've got to be comfortable doing that in the future.
Hmm.
One big accounting firm tried to envision 4 different futures. And so rather than trying to say this is what it's going to be, here's what it would look like if this happens, etc. I can see what Marcus said. That's one possibility. If what some programmers are saying is possible with agentic AI, we could get rid of half the accountants in the world, and they will no longer do any accounting. And there will be some
Hmm.
new future business profession there. If it turns out that maybe this was overly hyped, we never can get it quite good enough. No, we're going to just all laugh and say, hey, these AI people, they didn't know what they were talking about. So I think you prepare as a student for each one of those futures and watch as it sees which road are we getting farther down. One way to do that is it used to be what really mattered is what grades you got. As a student,
Hmm.
I think it's less about what grades. Those are still important. You want to get good grades, but now what's your portfolio that you're delivering? So when I go to a job interview, it's not, oh, I got an A in data analytics and I got an A in marketing. It's, hey, look, I built this marketing portfolio and I tried it out and I helped this business increase their revenue by 5%. Or in accounting, I developed a new way of asking questions that allowed people to be more honest and forthcoming with the things that they're doing. And you can then demonstrate with what you and the AI have created together is going to
Hmm.
transform the world. And this isn't just pie in the sky. So we taught our students 4 weeks of how to use AI and all this stuff. And I said, a project, you just do anything you want, build something with AI. And one of the students built a really cool tool that the next week he was pitching to sell to a Fortune 500 company. And that's now what's possible. And so I think there is the transformation. Education is no longer you sitting as a student and listening to me. It's you getting involved in the process and saying, how do I need to improve myself for this one of these
Hmm.
futures that's going to exist, whether it's, crazy this one or crazy that one. I am now ready for that future because I've been living it now as a student.
And David, you bring up a great point too. I like this portfolio concept, and students should be keeping things in a portfolio of
Hmm.
cases, projects, whatever they've done where they've actually utilized AI, so that when they go on that job interview, they can talk about those types of things that they've done and be specific about it. And you may even have an employer want to see it as well. So the portfolio effect is a great concept to show what you've been able to do with AI in the past.
I
Hmm.
stole it from the arts because when you hire somebody who's a graphic designer, they give you their portfolio and you're like, wow, they really do amazing at this, this, and this. So it's not a new idea. It's somebody, the arts have been doing it for a long time.
Right. And that's the
Hmm.
good thing about education. We share a lot.
Yes. And I love this portfolio concept. In fact, it reminds me of it actually reminds me of the presentation I did because I hope you guys don't mind. I'm going to share something that I have in my own portfolio. In fact, I created an AI robot for my presentation. And
Hmm.
that itself, the idea of it was, I think, what was really that helped me stand out compared to other people. And in that same way, AI is it's transforming how we see education today. Because AI could be used to, do an assignment, get an A easy, like really easy and fast, but it won't be able to replace the work that you put into building something with the use of AI. So by building something with I do think that it would be amazing to see all of the things like you had for your student, David, all of these things that AI can do. I think that's what really needs to be highlighted.
Completely agree. So trying to push students there, trying to push the academy there. But you ask what's going to change in 1 year. It takes a long time to get big groups to change. And there's regulators and there's the way it's been done. So people that are predicting, in the next 6 months, this is going to change. It's probably going to take a little more time, not because the
Hmm.
technology's not there, but because we as humans take time to change and adapt and grow. And I think that's the biggest thing people underestimate is how much time it's going to take us humans to come along to where the technology already is.
Hmm. I do think that now, like now more than ever, us as humans, we have the tendency to be always predicting what's going to happen next, always rushing to see, oh, this is going to happen now, this is going to happen now, this and this and this. And it almost goes, it's like a domino effect where we're just like continuously predicting something. But it's important to also slow down and see how each thing is going to be impacting us. And as AI is impacting schools and how each student's going to be using it in their own way, I anticipate that there would be something with a gap, maybe like a gap where the students that are doing something, they're doing something great, but the ones that aren't, they may be, there may be like a gap in between there. So my question to you two is, how can schools ensure that AI supports learning rather than widening that achievement gap between the two?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's something that we've always dealt with even before AI, because you're always trying
Hmm.
to make sure that every student is successful and gets to that level. Uh, but all you can do, in my opinion, as an institution is just try to really have constant assessments and mentoring. What I have found is, having students work in groups, because many times those weaker students in a certain area may learn from the others in those groups as well. So those are tactics that I've used, but you bring up a great point, because you don't want there to be a big gap just because somebody wasn't exposed
Hmm.
to technology earlier. And that's always a concern. That was always a concern of mine in the classroom.
I think the easy answer is we point a finger and say, they have to do this. Where really we should be pointing the finger at myself and say, what do I need to be doing as a student? Or in my case, what do I need to be doing as a faculty member? Not what does BYU have to do or the American Accounting Association or Big Four accounting firms, but what should I be doing? And as I think about that, that question gets down to, well, am I being a good parent and teaching my kids? Great. Am I in my community, my religious organization? Are we working to help this? Or do we have politics working? Do we have schools working? It's not one group that gets to solve this problem. It's going to take a collective action from all of us, pointing that finger at ourselves and say, how can I help contribute versus how do I take more away? And to the degree we can do that, we will see amazing success and we'll be able to bring everyone along. To the degree we just look at ourselves and say somebody else has to do all the work, there's going to be rife inequality and challenges.
And you bring up a good point. We all are
Hmm.
accountable for making sure that those students can be as successful as they can. We, as when I was a faculty member, when I was a department chair, students too. It's not all one person.
Hmm. And to add on to that, I do think that more than anything, AI will be something that should bring us together. You know, even though that there might be a gap, collaboration is and communication will definitely be the biggest thing that's going to help us, navigate around this entirely new concept for us. And AI is such an interesting topic and it's always evolving. I mean, look what we've talked about just today. It seems like time truly has flown and we're just about at the end of our time today. But I have to say that this has been such a great conversation and I can't thank you both enough for coming on today's show. I think there is so much more we could talk about that I'm seeing a part two potentially coming from this episode.
Well, Harshita,
And
I think you've just done a great example of showing what education needs to look like. A student taking the initiative to have a podcast, to talk to others, to get out there and do a little bit more. And I'm sure AI helped you around it, but it was you who did it. So congratulations to you for showing the example of what we should be doing moving forward.
And
well,
I'm going to
thank you
say
so
ditto to
much.
what David just said. You did an awesome job. And I love seeing students take this initiative and reach out and talk to people not at their own institutions. And this is great.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate all of that. And David and Marcus, I want to thank you guys again so much. But I do want to say one more note that AI may have helped me a little bit, but mentors also helped me. Mentors like you guys have helped me so much along the way. it's really important to find those people in our lives around this time. And I also want to thank everyone who's listening today too. AI is such an always evolving topic, and one I think we all have our own perspectives, questions, and ideas about. This is definitely a conversation to keep having, and I encourage all of you guys to continue doing that. Also, if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to subscribe, share, and follow Student Led Conversations. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep making an impact. See you soon.
Student-Led Conversations is brought to you by the Center for Accounting Transformation, empowering the next generation of leaders through student-focused programs that build confidence, leadership, and real-world connection. The Center for Accounting Transformation provides business professionals with a network for utilizing innovations that are ready for adoption, the training and resources necessary to apply those innovations, and an opportunity to engage the talent and community needed to further the pursuit of innovative accounting practices that drive responsible and mindful business performance. If you're a student, discover how you can lead, learn, and grow in the profession. If you're a professional, explore ways to give back, mentor, or sponsor student-driven initiatives. To learn more, please visit our website, www.we.improvetheworld.net, and unlock the power of the accounting profession.